Very slippery here. Ready?
An incredibly slippery ride on one of our private properties. A slight hill, and we'd be pulling the bikes up some of these. There was a mix of 2-stroke and 4-stroke beaters, which got us chatting about how the 4-strokes tend to get better traction in the mud. In the past, we did a light-hearted look at the old 4-stroke versus 2-stroke debate, but the question gets asked so much, I figured it was time for a slightly more serious video. First up, I'm all for 4-stroke and 2-stroke riders taking the piss out of each other and having a good laugh. But it's ridiculous how many clowns take this debate seriously. They honestly think one sucks and the other one rules. And if they can just yell loud enough and hurl enough abuse on forums, then people will have to agree with them. No one likes a one-eyed, bigoted fundamentalist when it comes to religion. It gets boring even faster when you come up against these dirt bike fundamentalists. Personally, I almost got the 4-stroke Sherco SEF-R300 last year, but opted for the R300 instead. So, for the time being, I take the piss out of 4-stroke riders. However, I still look with lust upon the French maiden, the Sherco SEF-R300. And if I buy one, for sure I'll be taking the piss out of 2-stroke riders. But if you want to seriously argue about this stuff, please give me a stiff coffee to stop me falling asleep. Talking of falling asleep, everyone finds a graph boring. I reckon this is a very broad summary of the 2-stroke versus 4-stroke debate. But keep in mind, rider skill will always trump your choice of engine. For example, Tony Bow is the world's top trials rider on a 4-stroke. He is so good that any power or weight disadvantage is negligible. And if you put Graham Jarvis on a bumper, I'm sure he would still flog the vast majority of the world's best extreme enduro riders. Here is an overview of the potential advantages and disadvantages of going 4-stroke or 2-stroke. These aren't comprehensive lists, but hopefully will just give you some idea of the broad similarities and differences. There are many things that can complicate the choice between a 2-stroke and 4-stroke. In some countries, pollution laws will restrict which bikes can be registered for road use, and even which can be raced or can't be. For others, it can be very subjective, and one will appeal more, even if on face value it wouldn't be the logical choice. It really comes down to a case of try before you buy. Personally, one thing that does stand out to me is that the 2-stroke does benefit the experienced rider more. That instant engine response at low revs that can break traction so easily can become an asset in the hands of a skilled rider who can constantly grip the throttle in tough terrain to get traction in certain spots, then de-weight the bike over slippery bits. And while modern 2-strokes have much less of a power band than their ancestors and have very flexible tuning options, the way the power kicks in at higher revs can still be intimidating for the less experienced rider.
Not as bad on this side, but like you say, we've got the solid wheels happening. I don't think I'll need to clean it.
To my way of thinking, I think the maintenance issue is largely irrelevant for everyday dirt riders. If you aren't constantly riding that engine hard, even a 2-stroke often won't need an engine rebuild until at least 100 hours. And increasingly, more riders are leaving them a lot longer than that if they are just pottering around. And there are plenty of 4-stroke riders finding their valves haven't moved even up to 100 hours of riding, and they may not need rings for a long, long time after that. In the end, you really just need to get a good test ride on both a 2-stroke and 4-stroke to see which you will prefer. And remember, your riding skill will always be way more important than your choice of engine in the long run. As for the future, eventually the debate will be over because it will all be electric bikes once the technology is good enough. You'll probably just be able to dial in whether you want 2 or 4-stroke engine characteristics, then slip on your headphones for some digital. It'll be happy days, unless of course you ride too far from the house and the power cord gets ripped out.